Hey everybody, if you are a dad and you're looking to connect with your daughter, we are going to cover a few easy tips you can use to do just that in this video. My name is Caroline Henry and I'm here with Chris Ownby. Chris, you want to introduce yourself a little bit?
Yeah, my name is Chris Ownby. I'm a facilitator at First Things First with Caroline, and my wife's name is Kristen, and I have two daughters. My oldest is Kendall. She's 13 and is in class right now, or class. And this is Lily, who is 11, just turned 11.
Oh, now Lily, tell me a little bit about yourself. How long have you been out of school?
I've been out of school for about 2 or 3 weeks probably. I think it's 3 weeks that I've been out of school.
Has it been hard?
The first few weeks was hard, but I think I just got used to it this week.
Yeah. Are you happy that you're not in school, or are you missing your friends yet?
I'm missing my friends, but I can talk to a lot of them, so.
Yeah, it's nice we can do video calls like this, isn't it?
Yes.
Definitely. So Lily, tell me this. What has been your favorite way that your dad has had fun with you and connected with you so far?
I recently started learning martial arts with him.
Ooh,
so
that's fun.
A lot in the evenings in the garage.
That's awesome. I love that. Lily, would you say that he's done a good job connecting with you?
Yes, definitely.
Yeah. What would you say if you have friends whose dads might not do as good of a job as your dad connecting with them? What would you say to them? If you have any words of advice for the daughters. If you don't, that's okay.
It's okay. It's kind of hard to think about, right?
Yeah.
Would you say that try to find something they like to do together, maybe?
Yeah. I mean, you can just start out by asking them, hey, do you want to do something today? Or...
Yeah, that's a good point. Take initiative and ask your dad. I know when I was your age, I never would have asked my dad to play with me. I would have let him do the talking. So that's a really good point, Lily. Thank you. So Chris, you have two daughters at home. Lily's one of them and Kendall's older. So how have you guys been managing this whole quarantine? What are some ways you've been kind of handling that?
Well, I think when this quarantine first started, this isn't a brag at all, but I think we were real fortunate to kind of be as proactive as we could with making sure that we were doing stuff together and making sure that, we were kind of on a schedule. So when we were doing work and we're doing school online, we really wanted to balance that with making sure that we were doing stuff outside. We were active. We were really engaging our creative minds a lot. And so we try to take that and do stuff together in those kinds of areas.
Yeah.
So, like Lily said, we started doing martial arts out in the yard. The neighbors think we're crazy. But, just to be real active, we've done walks and we've done hikes and bike rides. And we've also worked on some artsy stuff, not always together, but you've done some cards and that she sent to people and, so we've been really trying to balance our time with those kinds of things.
Yeah. So do you try and connect with both your daughters at the same time, or are you trying to spend some quality time with each of them? How does that work?
Yes, to both. we do stuff together.
Yeah.
Which has been great. But Lily is Lily, and my other daughter, her name's Kendall. She's Kendall, and they're two different people. And so they have different interests. They have different ways that they kind of de-stress from this kind of thing. For instance, last night when we were in the garage, doing martial arts, well, daughters have really taken an interest in that.
Mm.
So I had them both out there, and we were working out and doing stuff. But Kendall loves to run. Lily likes to just kind of hang out sometimes and talk more and just kind of be there. And we really like to watch movies together and that kind of thing.
Yeah.
So, those are two different things that we do. So I try to spend individual time with them as well as both together.
Yeah. And I mean, playing to each daughter's interests is what I hear you saying, right?
Yeah, exactly. And it really takes knowing, your daughters well.
Yeah.
And I think it's also a matter of, I'll tell you this, I feel like to a degree, I have to sort of ask permission to get into their world,
Yeah.
My oldest loves to run. Lily and I can't understand that. We don't know that world. But Kendall, she is a runner. As a matter of fact, this past week, Caroline, you'll want to know this, she hit her personal best at doing 9 miles.
What?
She's 13 years old, right? Her goal is to do a half marathon. So anyway, she's kind of crazy, but she runs around the neighborhood during the day, and I will bike with her because I ain't running, but I'll bike. And but I always ask her, I say, now listen, if you want to do this on your own, I'm cool with that. I don't want to get up all in your business, but I want to support you. So if you want me to ride my bike with you, then I'm happy to do that still. And she's always like, yeah, I really want you to. I love that. And we get some really good time talking and running. And she actually talks when she runs. It's weird, but yeah, I know. But we have some really quality time in that way. But I always try to ask, hey, is this okay to do? I always ask Lily, hey, do you want to train today, or do you want to kind of take it easy and do your own thing, or what? And she's just like, sure, I'm game. But yeah.
So I have a feeling a lot of the dads listening might not have experience trying to connect with their daughter, because I know for me growing up, my dad, I have 4 siblings. So the time that it takes to connect with each of us, and he was working a lot. So it was hard for him to spend the time to intentionally connect with each of us. Yeah. So if you could give a dad some tips on just starting that process, what would that look like?
Well, I tell you what, do you need to go back and get your stuff in? All right.
Thanks for joining us, Lily.
Bye. Yeah, so some tips on getting that done. First of all, I think it's a mindset. I really do. You got to switch your brain to say, I want to intentionally spend some time with, my daughter or my daughters. There's also the idea of really tapping into their interests. And just to be transparent with you, I've made the mistake of wanting them to do the stuff that I wanted to do. And, they went fishing for a couple of weeks, and they didn't want any more of that. And I love to fish, that. But Kendall loves to run. And so I have to switch my mind to say, this may not be my favorite thing, but it's the opportunity to get into their world and for them to allow me to be in their world.
Yeah.
And that's what really makes the quality time for that.
Yeah. And I love how you have adapted, because, running isn't your thing, but you can bike with her. You don't have to do the exact same thing that she's doing, but you can still spend that quality time. I love that. That's great.
Yeah.
So I know a big part of being a dad of daughters is dealing with the emotions and maybe the complaints of your daughters. So sorry, my dog is making some noises. What are some tips you can give dads for dealing with those emotions, especially teenage daughters? Because I was a teenage daughter not too long ago. I remember those insane emotions. And I remember my dad not really knowing how to handle that. So what are some ways that dads can manage that?
Well, my oldest is 13.
Mm-hmm.
So I feel like we're kind of right in the middle of all that, and I'll tell you this, I don't claim to be an expert in this area, but this is sort of how I've handled it. I have stopped trying to understand how the emotions flow. And I'm not trying to be funny with that. It sounds funny, but honestly, if you try to figure out, oh my gosh, how can she be this way today and this other way the next day?
Yeah.
You drive yourself nuts. I think the idea is to really be in the present of whatever emotions they're going through or they're feeling. And you really have to approach it with as much empathy as you can. I mean, you have to, as a guy and as a dad, sometimes you have to muster that up, that empathy. And
it doesn't come quite as naturally for most men.
no, not always at all. And for me, I can only speak for myself. Some days I feel like, I can really just kind of be there and be present and listen. And other days I'm just like, oh my gosh, here we go again. But for the sake of my daughters, I really feel like I have to muster all that up and push the empathy out from me to really be there and be present. And you got to approach that with zero judgment.
Yeah.
They are feeling things often in ways they don't understand. And so I can't attempt to understand that. And so I just have to approach it like, wow, I know you're feeling sad. I know you're missing your friends. I know today just seems like a bad day, and I'm sorry. I don't know why either, but can I just be here with you? Is there anything that I can do for you? For my daughter, especially Kendall, sometimes there's some things to fix and talk about, but more often there's just the time to listen and be present. And that usually is the big thing that she needs.
That's huge. I mean, just listening. And I love your fact about not trying to understand, because it's something that they don't understand either.
Right.
They can't explain it, so how would you understand either? But being okay with that, I think, is a big hurdle to get over, for sure.
It is. And the thing is that when they're feeling these emotions, they're not trying to fix something. And we get in fix-it mode. And this is really, honestly, this is a good lesson for being married too. It really is you're not, when my daughter feels, overwhelmed or stressed or anxious, they're not trying to fix that necessarily. They're just trying to figure it out. So for us to be there to just be present, helps them process through the emotions rather than fix it, stop it, analyze it, whatever we might be tempted to do.
Yeah, definitely. I know for some dads, they kind of feel like that's more the mom's responsibility to handle the emotions if she's in the picture or has a good relationship with them. How would you respond to that? Is it more so the mom, or is it the dad's responsibility too?
I think it's different with each. My wife, Kristen, can connect with the girls in ways that I absolutely cannot.
Yeah.
And especially in the midst of strong emotions and in this quarantine where they're, missing friends or they're going stir crazy from being inside and the weather's bad or whatever. But I think that dads, I don't know what it is. I can't explain it, but I think dads have a very special way of meeting their daughters in the midst of their emotions and in the midst of what they're feeling.
Yeah.
And it's just different. So I would think, in the most ideal situation, mom and dad each have an equally important role, although a different role in helping their daughters through those kinds of things.
Yeah. So I might be interpreting a little bit of what you're saying, but
yeah, go for it.
So what I'm hearing is, don't be afraid of your daughter's emotions, because even if you can't understand it, that's okay. She just needs you to be there.
Yeah. And don't be afraid, but be okay with being confused with them.
Yeah.
I don't know that I've ever been feared my daughter's emotions. Maybe I have. If I felt fear, it's maybe fearing how they're going to react to something, later on. We're going through this quarantine now. We've been into it 3 or 4 weeks. 6 weeks from now, how are these guys going to do?
Yeah.
And we can only do what we really would encourage our daughters to do, and that's to take it one day at a time. So I think, again, I keep saying this phrase, but being present in the present.
Yep. So what are some ways that dads can really do that? It's really easy to talk about it and say, do activities with them and be present with them. But when it comes down to it, there are things going on, I'm sure, as a parent that, it's just overwhelming. So how can dads especially take the time to really focus in on that relationship with their daughter?
Well, the first thing you said, the first phrase was take the time.
Yeah.
And that's definitely the truth. And some days, I'm feeling it just as much as everybody else, I think. And some days just all this is overwhelming. Mm-hmm. And I have to stop and remember, man, I've got to be intentional about my time and my schedule and all this. The other thing that really, I think for me, and especially with my 13-year-old, mm-hmm. is that whereas I got to be okay not fully understanding their emotions, I've got to also be able to kind of read where they are as far as, do they want connection or do they need space? Mm. Because I can overdo it a lot with my 13-year-old, and I can be, there's the idea of I want to either make space or I can be all up in her space. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so, and you know how 13, 14, 15-year-olds are, one day they want to talk serious stuff. The next day they're silly and you don't understand their goofballness. Yep. And then the next day they're just totally morose. They're just like, the emo thing is coming back or something. And so, I have learned, and sometimes the hard way, to kind of just embrace where they are with that. And if Kendall wants to talk some serious stuff, man, let's go on a walk, or let's sit on the porch and let's talk. Mm-hmm. If she wants to be goofy, I've had to learn not to be, oh, would you please just stop being so silly right now, and just be silly with her, Yep. And the times that she's just kind of, she seems like she's down, I've had to read that and go, I think you might need your space right now, but if you need anything, I'm just in the next room. So reading them is really, it's an art, but it's important to try to do. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
I don't know if that answered that question or not, or if that was.
I think so.
What you're looking for. Okay.
Yeah. And taking or allowing yourself to practice, I think plays into that too. It's not going to happen on the first try.
No, it's not going to happen on a lot of the tries. I really think I'm going to get this parenting down by the time that the kids are gone. But yeah, and realize this too, for dads out there, some days you're just going to read it wrong. Mm. And you're going to say something that sets off, especially if you have a teenager, they're just going to go off for some reason. And you're going to go, I did something wrong. I don't know what, but I think I didn't do something right. And give yourself some grace, And your daughter grace too. Absolutely. Absolutely. Again, she's feeling stuff she doesn't understand a lot of times. And Lily's 11. She's in that pre-adolescent stage, but I can tell you that she was, around 8 or 9, her emotions were starting to go up and down. Yeah. We know that puberty is coming a lot sooner in both guys and girls, but especially girls. And we know that with that comes the fluctuation of emotions and moods. And so, expect that around 8, 9, 10 years old still. Yeah. Yeah. It lasts a while. It does. Forever.
Yeah. So the last question that I have is, how can dads use this time in quarantine when their family's all together and everyone's overstressed and you're trying to just get through the day? How can dads use this for good? And how can they set up routines that'll last even when the quarantine is done?
Yeah, I thought about this a lot because one question I have in my mind is, all these things that we're doing, can we still do these things after all this?
Mm-hmm.
And I can't answer that question, honestly. But what I do know is we have an opportunity where in this really terrible world situation that we're in with this pandemic, we still have been given some margin to, through the quarantine and being kind of holed up in the house in our neighborhood, we've been given a little bit of margin to develop some routines and some habits and some points of connection. And we need to take it. And in regards to later on down the line, whenever this goes back to whatever it's going to go back to, normal, right? It's got to somehow affect that. Mm. So I know that when I start going out, here's an example. Like Lily said, I started doing martial arts when I was a kid. It's been an important part of my life, and I'm really proud that they've kind of taken an interest. It might last 2 weeks and they're done. I don't know, but I'm taking the opportunity now.
Yeah.
And Lily has told me, I really want to go out and do this like every night. And I'm like, okay, we can do that. Sometimes it might be 20 minutes or sometimes it might be longer, but, and then with Kendall, she's like, yeah, maybe every other night. I don't know. But to make space for that, and then to know that that's the opportunity that's going to connect us together. And I would love to say that later on, at that, whatever that normal is, that will now be a part of that normal once we get over this hump. So my what I would say to help is look for the margin and take advantage of the margin. I would say look to your girls' interests. You know, if tomorrow they came to me and said, you know what, I'm kind of done with this whole martial arts thing, I need to really yield to that and say, cool, what's the next thing that we want to try our hand at? What do we want to be creative with? And so be open to those interests. Again, if you have more than one daughter, make sure you're really paying attention to the fact that they're two different people and they have two different sets of interests in that. And then I would also say, I think we tend to be an active family. I mean, we're not like hardcore CrossFitters or anything, but you know, we get out and we walk and we hike, like Lily said. So really engaging in physical activity, as well as with your creative mind, doing some things, and then also just having some chill time. I mean, if it's a game night, if it's a movie night, you know, you want to take advantage of all of those kinds of various activities, because I think it helps you connect with your daughters, but it also helps them to process through this really stressful time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But it does require everyone kind of flipping out of auto mode, you know? Because I know for me, it's really easy just to get into what do I need to do, and then what can I do to rest? And that's it. And not taking the time to be intentional and really thinking that through.
Yeah. I tell you, the way that I've kind of handled it in my own head is that I'm going to say the same thing you're saying in different words. You're flipping off auto. You're really thinking from day to day and hour to hour and making the most of your time. And I've had to do that because, you know, we're home working now.
Yeah.
And not home working, but we're at home working. And you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
And so all of a sudden my schedule is so flip-flopped. I have to think of what am I doing from hour to hour. And so if I can do that now with my family and with my daughters, I'm really thinking intentionally you know.
Mm-hmm.
And so it's a matter of really embracing and understanding how I'm going to balance and spend my time with my girls.
Yeah. And I think that shows them, you know, that sets a really good example for them when things do get stressful, of balancing time between work and play and connecting with family and spending time by yourself. I mean, that's really good.
Yeah, well, think about this. I mean, and I don't mean to prolong what we're saying here, but this is so important. At some point, and I'm very confident of this, we're going to get over this.
Mm.
It might be a new normal, but we're going to get over this crisis.
Yep.
And what is it that we have done specifically as dads to help our daughters grow to where they can meet the other crises and stresses of life?
Yeah.
And what we do now is going to go with them into the future. And so to understand that, I think if you can really understand that, then it puts yourself in a headspace that you really are intentional about your time.
Yeah, that's awesome. I love it. Well, Chris, this has been awesome. I really hope for all the dads listening that it has been helpful and you're able to connect with your daughters better than ever before. Chris, is there anything else you'd want to say to the dads?
The only thing I got to tell you right now is I know that we are all in this weird place, you know, with the quarantine, the virus, the pandemic, and all this. Dads, our role is so important. Please don't sell yourself short. Please know that your daughters are depending on you to see what it looks like to get through something like this, and simply to be present and connect with them. And that's such an important role that we have. So I just want to encourage you with that.
Yeah, that's awesome. Thanks so much, Chris.
Thank you, Caroline.
We'll see you later.
All right.
Good luck.
Thank you. You too.